about small fruits than tree fruits, and tree fruits are spray daunting anyway. So we'll try to go about 30 minutes. I'll cover as much of tree fruits as I can, and I think you'll be more. She even said there were blueberries outside, so we'll even look at those. I'm willing to stay till like 12:30 even. Once we get outside, we'll just go out there till you're sick of me, and we'll look at some of the trees, and I can show you some pruning techniques. I'll get my pruning stuff out of my Jeep, and then we'll just kind of look at that. We'll look at some of the tools. Everybody needs a lopper, and everybody needs a bypass pruner and stuff like that. Is she still in here? One thing I forgot is rubbing alcohol. Hey, Aaron, you don't have any rubbing alcohol in there anywhere, do you? Yes, bad. Okay, I forgot mine, but I have a spray bottle out there. I just forgot my. If you could find me some, I would really appreciate it. All right, let's keep going. All right, just want to mention right off the bat about blueberries. One more little comment. I'm one of those people. On one end, I'm a granola head one day, and then I go over here and talk to the chemical people on the other. I'm kind of what you call split personality. I believe that you have to be able to be tolerant of all ends of the spectrum as an extension agent. I primarily go with research information, but this is probably the easiest small fruit that I've ever worked with to go completely organic. Is blueberries. Really easy. I used to say you don't have to do nothing, just grow them. But now we've got the spotted wing Drosophila. The Japanese beetle has been a nightmare for us with blueberries, but it's been hitting us primarily after production. It pretty much hits the roses and some of those things first, and then it gets on our blueberries a little bit later on there. Pretty much manures, those kinds of things will help you with fertility. Blueberries don't need a whole lot. The more fertilizer you put down to blueberries, the more you're going to be pruning. You're after fruit. That's what you're after. I'll just kind of go over grapes, a little dab. We'll spend about 5 minutes on that. I'll kind of run through it kind of quickly on there. Grapes grow in clusters. And muscadines are real iffy for us in some of the elevations we've got here. But you'll see everybody having muscadines. It's a native grape. We have some species now that'll take some high elevation. So look for muscadines to be more and more and more for our region. But for the bunch grapes, they just taste so good we have to have them. They're ancient fruit. Most of the vines in Europe were killed with grape root borer and some of the diseases. So every grape nowadays are grown on American rootstock. So even the grapes over there are grown on American rootstock because ours is more tolerant to disease and insect problems. It takes 6 vines of grapes to do processing and needs for a family. So if you're going to be growing grapes, grow them that way. All grapes are self-fertile. So if you have a grape vine, and you don't need 2 to have cross-pollination. So it's not a problem on there. Your yield, if you're doing heavy production, is going to be around 10 pounds per plant per vine. If you're going to trellis them on a 2-wire trellis system in there. Pretty much you won't get that in this area because I don't know of maybe 10% of the people take care of their grapes correctly and prune them correctly. They won't cut the vines off. And they need to prune at least twice a year in the homeowner situation. And we'll talk about that in more. I'm going to talk about pruning with grapes more than I am about how to grow them. I don't know whether this is in your book or not. I don't think so, but there is Barclay Poling, one of our old specialists, made a great zone for grapes and what grapes do best in our region. This is still very true. We're working very hard, myself and a team, to get western North Carolina, Haywood County over into almost Rutherford County, what's called an AVA, if you've ever heard of that, an American Viticulture Area. If we get designated as that, we can really boost the industry a lot more. We have what's called the Appalachian Escarpment, which protects us. A lot of times, we have snow here where we don't have snow in Henderson County. So we have the different regions. We have a really unique climate area here. So hopefully we'll get that done. Enough on that. Let's go on down. Environmental preferences, full sun, no wet feet. Prune, 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 prune. Don't hesitate to cut grapevines off. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. pH can handle a pretty acid soil. Here in this region, native soil grapes do very well. That's why we have the fox grapes growing all over the woods, because they can grow at a 5.5 pH. The preference is slightly acid because you're going to get a better vine growth on there. Late winter, early spring is when we plant now. Trellising is very, very important on grapes. I don't care how you grow grapes. You can grow them up on top of your house, over your window. But I will teach you with about 6 steps pretty easily. If you get just 3 concepts down, you'll be able to take care of grapes a lot better. You know, and I know when I was a kid, my grandmother became real old, and I took care of her for a year. And every night I spent the night with her because I didn't want her to go to a nursing home. The biggest problem was she wanted to deal with her grapes. So I thought, well, that's a good thing. She can look at them. I'll move them. So I moved these 30-some-year-old grapevines right beside her porch, and then put them up over the trellis so she could sit in the wheelchair and pick her grapes. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. I put up jam till I was sick of it. Because she would pick them. Now you get your little butt in there, Craig, and start making jam. Well, it was great because I learned how to make jam. But midnight, I was in there making jam, and I was supposed to be sleeping till I go to work the next day. But, you know, I do miss my grandmother. That's who gave me my passion for small fruits and my job, actually. And she probably taught me more than I learned in college in there. Cultivation of grapevines has become extremely important. You know, once a grapevine is established, you should really never have to fertilize it. You know, in the commercial industry, we want deep-rooted. We deep-root our plants, and you rarely fertilize. A winery rarely fertilizes their grapevines because they have a deep-rooted plant. Pulls nutrients up. You want high concentrations of sugar. I don't even recommend in some of the, you know, Sauvignon, some of those kind of grapes. I work with the wineries as one of my jobs and teaching them how to do that. The problem with grapes in our region is we have to do frequent spraying. Just like with our fruit trees, when we get to fruit trees, they're very, very prone to black rot, brown rot, a lot of the fungal diseases that are in there. The system that works best for us in the homeowner is a 2-wire system. You put it at 4 feet and at 2 feet. You know, with our blackberries, it was 3 and 2. So you can go a little higher with grapes. You can get a little more clusters on there, especially if you're going to grow some of the hardy muscadines that they're now recommending for our region. Muscadines grow faster and need a lot more space because they are a native grape. In there, we graft on some of the muscadine rootstock. This is kind of a system. It's in your book on there. Training a vine to a 4-arm Kiffin system, and this is what I'm going to explain to you. No matter what you do with a grape, you have what you call a cordon. That is one vine that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you want grapes on an arbor or a trellis, you don't throw all the vines up there and then go back and say, I'm going to prune them. You still have a main vine. You do the same thing with flowering vines. People just don't get that concept. You can't stand when there's a new vine comes over here. You want to save the pretty little vine and you lift it up and you stick it on the wire. No, absolutely not. If you're on a trellis, you'll pick 3 or 4 grapevines and they go over your vine. They are permanent. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's called the cordon. So every year, you prune back to that cordon. Okay, so the same thing with the Kiffin system. What you want is when you first plant it, it's just going to go straight up. We'll sometimes do it. You're going to have, no matter how you do it, you can have 3, like with a Geneva double curtain, or if you're in France, in the Alsace region of France, they have multiple vines coming up from one part in the ground. Here we have one vine come up, and then we'll break it off onto the wire here and to the wire here. And then this is what you want to prune back to every single year. The vine will continue to grow. I'll go to people's houses, and there'll be 16 vines tied up right there, 8 feet down. And they're like, I don't get hardly any grapes. I just get really small grapes. Well, you hellfire. I mean, you've got all these vines down here, and the root cannot provide the nutrition to 1,000 vines. In the summertime, these in the Kiffin system, these will sprout, and there'll be a vine grow out this direction. You know, You don't take that wonderful, cute little vine and put it back up on the wire. You cut it off and throw it away and make a vine basket out of it, or a wreath or something. Cut it off and maintain the grapes right along that. That's the problem with homeowners and the way they do vines. I'm talking all vines, flowering vines, anything like that. You want a main vine, because you'll read, you cut back to 3 buds. Well, and people say, well, my God, there's 1,000 million buds. There's vines going here and vines going there and vines going everywhere. If you've got a grape arbor, you're going to, every time a vine grows, you put it back up and you tie it up so it gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And then when spring comes, I've got to cut my vines. Well, where do you cut? I don't know either. You put 1,000 of them up there. But if you've grown it to a one-wire system, that's the one you cut back to every year. It's going to still break bud here and keep growing. I was over in Canton last week helping a lady that's going into commercial production. She sells at the tailgate market. And she had grapes. And I said, I cannot believe you've done that. What happened was she had allowed these, it was this system, but these had grown past to the 3rd or 4th grape down here. And it was just a menagerie of vines. So, it was, I just went to work and started slinging the vines off, She started crying. Oh my God, you're killing all my vines. Cut it back and it looked just like that when we were done. Okay? That's what I want you to get away from here. See, that's what it looks like. You've got 4 arms that come out. So no matter how you get it up here, whether it be 3 coming up, you come up and you choose something that goes out here. You choose something that goes out here. So this is what attaches. This gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So every year we cut it off. There's another one over here. We cut it off. So we allow a good, 3 to 4 feet right here, 3 to 4 feet right there. And every year when you prune, you cut back to that. Okay?
3 to 4 feet
out from the main cordon. This is your main cordon. Oh, you're just the most special person. Thank you. Just sit there somewhere. Thank you very much. Now, I'll probably use most of that. It's okay, Ian. Okay. All right, in there. So that's how we renew back to that. You'll have babies come up here, cut them all off. Now, this is when you're done pruning, you want it to look just like this every year. These are your laterals, and it says 3 buds. If you're cutting back to 3 buds, you're 6 buds if you're, whatever type of grape you're doing. That's what it means, is that little lateral. So you'll cut that lateral back to where you've got 1 or 2 buds left on it. And then that will produce little vines coming out. Well, what happens is this continues to grow forward toward you. And it's going to grow and grow and grow. But there's no grapes out here. So you're like, oh, that pretty vine, I'm going to save it and put it back up there. No, the grapes will always be with this system close to the cordon. That's where the nutrition is. So you can always trim all summer if it's in your way. Like on, if it's there's a system called Geneva double curtain, where we have a wire here, the lower wire, and then you have 2 wires at the top, so it's a Y shape. So that way you can get sun. If you're high elevation, 5,000 feet, you can get sun down the middle. So we'll let that particular one get vines growing way out, even though the grapes are in here. But, my advice, and that's one of the systems I've helped design and work with, when you've got a lot of water, like we had 4 years ago, when it rained all summer all over western North Carolina, everybody flooded out and everything died and all that crap. That's a time when I would say, don't cut those grapevines that are out in the middle of your aisle, because that sucks up the water. You see, so you can, you can manage your grapes however you want to. Or you say you've got good clusters and they're never ripening. They're never ripening. They're never ripening. You go in, you cut a lot of that leaf off. The sun comes in, ripens your grapes, and you increase the sugar content. How do you know when to harvest grapes? When they taste good. We do a brick test for sugar when we're in the commercial market. But that's the same thing. I go out there and I can about tell you, taste it, that's about right, time to harvest. Okay? It really is a taste test for homeowners.
When are you going to do this major pruning, like in the fall?
No, in the late winter, early spring, which is now. And if you're doing it late, you're late, say you're getting on up toward, middle of March, they'll bleed. You know, you'll cut them and there'll be liquid coming out. That's not even a concern. They'll shut off after a while. There's so much fluid coming up, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. If you've not pruned, prune. Okay? Because it will increase the amount of grape clusters you've got. Okay, let's go on to tree fruits. Well, that's another system. There is a high wire cordon, like if you're in a high elevation, or you've got a deer problem, or you've got something going to get up to it. You can take your grapes higher, like 6 or 7 feet up, and you're growing them up here. That way, some animals can't get up to them. A lot of times we didn't mention that with blueberries, but birds are a real problem. With blueberries a lot of times, and sometimes it's more a problem to put that netting over there, and you put a frame up, and then you're in a higher elevation, then the snow gets on it. There's just all kinds of issues. So I just say share with the birds a little bit. Of course, I'm not a bird person. If they poop on my Jeep, to hell with them. They need to die. I won't no birds. Like my daughter always wanted to have a bird feeder. I said, you can put it at the back 40. Don't put it near the house because they'll fly by my Jeep and put a poop pod on my Jeep, and that's not going to be good. Anyway, let's go to...
How much space should one cordon have?
Probably, I like to have them in the homeowner situation 8 to 10 feet apart. So, so you've got 4 foot on this side, 4 foot on that side. And you'll have a good amount of clusters in that area. And it can handle that very well in a good drought stress time. The more you fertilize a grape on the surface, the less they have to go down deep. Because grapes can take a 5.5 pH. In our area, the soil is acid the deeper you go. Well, a grape can handle that acid, whereas others can't.
So worse than to go deep.
Yeah, you fertilize them until you get them up to build to a cordon. If you're getting a lot, and that's with homeowners, that's why they get so much vine growth. They've got, it's spring, time to fertilize everything. I have not fertilized my fruit in 3 years that I have on my 2 farms that I've got. I don't need to. If you're getting 6 foot of growth on a grapevine, my God, look at the pruning you've got to do. Why fertilize unless you need to? Does that make sense?
Expected lifespan.
Grapes probably 60 years maybe, But you got to take care of them, I mean, think about it. I've never been to Europe, but I've been in Asian countries, and they'll do a lot of renovation. They'll take them out, regraft. If you get grapefruit borer. Homeowners, though, all we got to do is mulch. You mulch your grapes, you kill your grapefruit borer. Grapefruit borers, moth comes in, lays an egg right beside the grape. Then spring comes, it hatches in the fall, it makes a chrysalis, and it sits there all winter. In the spring, it emerges, goes up, and bores into your grape. Okay? A 20-acre field, you can't mulch that 20-acre field like you can at home. So every year, in the homeowner situation, we mulch our grapevines, and you mulch an inch over that chrysalis, it can't emerge. It comes out, and it can't push itself out, so you kill the grapefruit borer. If you're having grapefruit borers at home, you need to start mulching. What do you like?
I don't know. I have grapes right now, so
whatever is pleasant to you. I mean, because grapes is not pH sensitive as much as others. So, a lot of folks will use bark, shredded hardwood stuff. If you're going to do pine needles, you've got to make sure you get at least 2 inches, or the grapefruit borer can come through a pine needle. I wasn't meaning to